Ryan, how are you?
I am good, John. How about yourself?
I have no complaints. Life is it's weird, but as far as my personal life goes, it's really good.
Good.
Yeah.
Yeah, I totally get that. It is uh acknowledging that it is weird. I think we all totally get that. And but I
Yeah.
would be lying if I didn't say that I have never felt closer to my wife and daughter.
There's a lot to be said about that. There really
Quite
is.
quite literally we have been never closer in the physical, literal sense. But to be clear, emotionally, it, you know,
Yeah.
we, and I'm just, I can't, every parents are proud of their kids. I'm extraordinarily just, proud and pleased with how Austin has dealt with, the whole situation.
Wow. Oh, that's great. How old?
She is 8. She's going to be 9 here in April. So she's a third grader.
That's a lot for a kid.
It is. I mean, you know, it's heartbreaking. There's certainly been a dramatic, lack of access to friends and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And at the same time, it's she and the other kids have been so creative about
Excuse
doing
me.
things virtually.
I'm sorry for interrupting you,
Oh,
Brian.
sorry.
I just wanted to remind you that we are live on YouTube right now.
Okay. Yep. Thanks.
Oh, we're getting a real picture on how people handle this thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, well, Colleen teaches first grade, so those little guys really don't get it. They exchange each other's masks and, eat next to each other.
Yeah.
But I think third grade on up, yeah, because they've had some time to experience it the normal way. And now you've got this new thing, and that's a real game changer.
Yeah. No, you're exactly right. She is at an interesting, I think it's really interesting, sort of different age groups. And, we'll be looking back on this for, years and decades.
Absolutely. A lot of books on it.
But it has been fascinating what she is sort of aware of and not aware of. Yeah, it's really incredible.
Yeah. Wow.
Hard, really hard, and also some real beauty. So
yeah, you have to almost look for that one. I mean, I'm glad we live here, where you can just look outside and be refreshed.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, glad things are going good for you.
Likewise. Hey, Kirsten, I know that there are some folks that will be joining that we'll need to promote, I believe.
Yes, I am looking for them. I see that there's one in there right now.
Okay. Morning, Mayor.
Good morning. How are you this morning?
Good. Yourself?
Up and at 'em on a Wednesday, Brian. That ain't bad, right? Still vertical,
Exactly.
or at least slightly more vertical than horizontal. That's all I ask.
I can save this question for Dale, unless you know. Do you happen to know down in the weeds? Do we need both of the motions today, or is one of those for Monday?
Brian, let me have a look at agenda because I have not.
You'd think I'd be able to figure that out by now.
Oh, this all sort of unfolds as we go on.
Yeah.
I've begun.
Kirsten, I see a few folks that I'm gonna see. Grant. You're on it. I will not mess with the process.
I apologize, Brian. I was in the middle of promoting them when you said.
No, that's great. It's better. The less I mess with things, the better.
And Kirsten, if I can have a demotion, I'd appreciate that at some point today.
I'm happy to demote you, Mayor. Just let me know.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning. Thanks for joining us.
Absolutely. Thanks for having us.
It's an exciting meeting.
Oh, we're happy to be a part of it. And yeah, it's definitely been a work in progress over the last bit of time. And thanks for leading the charge here.
Hey, Dale, I was just wondering, do we need both of those motions that are in the agenda, or is one of those for Monday? I should be able to figure it out and I couldn't.
So really the motion is to adopt the resolution. Well, I guess there's two. Yeah, adopt the resolution. And that is, so that what that does is it says that the council finds that we should sell sell and or convey these properties. And the other is that the procedures were reasonable for selecting GoodWorks as a partner. And then the other one is adopting the letter of intent to which is essentially establishes the partnership, though our lawyers would say, don't say word partnership.
So we should do both today and then both Monday, it seems like. Yeah, okay.
Excuse me, Brian. I don't know how extensive the list was for the people who would be joining as attendees, so I've been promoting all of them. Now I'm getting a bit concerned because I've promoted quite a few people. So if you see anybody that isn't actually part of the presentation group, let me know and then I can put them back as attendees.
So let's do this. I think we do. Yeah, I think we have over admitted. So I'm going to ask Dale, I'm going to go through people I see, and apologies to those who are participants. We may move some of you back to attendees. I'm just going to go from the bottom of the list. Is Tessa, last name starts with N, part of the development team at all, Dale?
No, and Don and Kai would be better able to answer that question.
Okay, so I think Tessa, I see a Peter. Oh, Peter C might be Peter Christian. I'm not sure. I don't believe that's part of the development team.
Donna and I are the only ones from GoodWorks presenting.
Okay. Madison Donor probably goes back to attendees.
Yes.
Thank you. Julie Lacey, all right, is with MEP.
I can go back to an attendee. Grant will be speaking on MEP's behalf.
Okay, thanks, Julie. Otherwise, I think we're probably good to go now at this point.
I see a Kaya. I'm sorry, don't know how
Kai is part of the development team.
Okay, great.
Russ Thomas is a highly trusted weatherman. And if we demote him, the weather may get bad, but.
Yeah, there we go. And I see Jeremy in the attendees list. Should,
You could promote him, please.
yep, let's promote Jeremy for Public Works.
There we go. I think we've got
Okay.
it sorted out.
I think we do. Thanks everyone for your patience, attendees. Appreciate that. And we're ready to go, Kirsten?
Yes, we are.
And would you mind putting up the participation slides? We have those. Great, thank you. Okay, good morning, I suppose it is, everyone. I will call to order Committee of the Whole for today, February 3rd. Our first item of, well, before I get into roll, just want to mention we continue to meet virtually as we have for quite some time now. There are a number of ways to track agendas and topics on those agendas. Those you can see on the screen here relative to links at the city's website. If you could go to the public comment slide. We have a number of ways for folks to participate in the committee meetings as well as provide public comment outside of the meetings. If you're a participant in the Zoom call, you can raise or lower your hand when we have an opportunity for public comment. There's a mechanism for clicking more on your iPhone or Android phone to raise or lower your hand. And if you're calling in on a landline, you can use *9 to both raise and lower your hand to indicate you wish to provide public comment. And as always, we have our group city council voicemail that goes to all council members at 406-552-6012, and our council group email, council@ci.missoula.mt.us. And thanks, Kirsten, you can take those down. Our first item is roll, and would you mind calling that?
Anderson,
Present.
Becerra,
Present.
Contos,
Here.
Harp,
Present.
Hess,
Present.
Jones,
Present.
Merritt,
Present.
Ramos. Is
He's
Ramos
going
out?
to today's count meeting.
Okay. Cheryl,
Present.
Basika,
Present.
Von Lossberg is here, and West.
She is here. I don't know if you can hear her.
I can't. She must be on mute, but I will mark her as here.
Yep, she's here.
Okay.
Thank you. We have minutes to approve from January 6th. Are there any changes to those minutes? Seeing none, those will stand approved. Is there any public comment on items not on the agenda today? We have one main agenda topic and then some committee cleanup of held items. But this is an opportunity for public comment on items that are not on the agenda. You can go ahead and raise your hand if so interested. And I'm not seeing anyone from the public with that. So we will move on to our regular agenda. Our main business item today is a resolution and agreements for the sale and conveyance of the city-owned land, commonly known as Parcel A of Lot 3 Scott Street lots. Very excited to have this today. And Mr. Mayor, I believe you'd like to introduce us.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good morning, council members and partners and attendees. Appreciate your time this morning as we embark on what we believe to be not only an exciting project, but a model for how we might move forward. You'll remember that when we purchased this roughly 19 acres last year, we gave you an extensive history of that piece of property, one that we've been talking about with owners for, in my case, the better part of almost 20 years now. And today we are realizing what we hope will be a game changer for the community, for the neighborhood, and for the city of Missoula. Today we present a development proposal and a sale that's a function of a really remarkable partnership, a partnership that came together very quickly, and a lot of due diligence on the part of all of those partners. Your staff has been incredible in this effort, as have our partners in putting it together to ensure that we're doing right by the folks we swore to serve. Pardon me. this hits on all cylinders. First, as you may recall, we contracted through the Missoula Redevelopment Agency with our friends at Missoula Economic Partnership to do work around the Opportunity Zone program. You may recall that that's a federal program that was part of the Trump tax package, and it provides fairly remarkable incentives for investment in particular census tracts as designated by, in the case of the state of Montana, Governor Bullock. Our Opportunity Zone roughly extends from somewhere near Providence St. Patrick Hospital to Reserve Street, Interstate 90, and the Clark Fork River. Large census tract, and we believed when we made our application a place where quality redevelopment could occur. Opportunity funds have a mixed bag in terms of reputation as they've been deployed around the nation, and in Missoula we have been particularly cautious in as much as we don't want a tax incentive to actually ruin neighborhoods or create projects that we cannot be proud of. And in this case, we have an opportunity fund partner, an impact opportunity fund, very interested in doing good as well as doing well. And that's just the sort of partner we had hoped to find, and that's the partner that we think, well, we think every opportunity fund ought to be an impact fund in the way that this one is. Grant Keir and his team, Julie Lacey and Nicole, brought us an inquiry from our friends at Good Works Ventures, represented here today by Don McGee and Kai Hochstetler. Many of you know the good work that Good Works does, aptly named organization. And when we heard that there was interest on the part of Good Works, we were very interested as well. What's come together here is a partnership that deploys Opportunity Fund, that deploys the resources of Good Works, along with a great development partner, design work through Opticos, a missing middle architectural and planning firm out of the Bay Area. And at the end of the day, what we get here for the sale of this property and our investment of infrastructure and more is a housing development, a mixed use development with permanent affordability, including a land trust model. In addition, this project will be designed within the context of the Northside neighborhood. We will be looking at the infrastructure that's necessary in that neighborhood to mitigate the impacts of development. And this we believe will not be the first high quality development in this neighborhood. And we need to make sure that the rest of the neighborhood is not unfairly or unduly impacted. In fact, we want to improve that neighborhood. All of this comes together relatively quickly and reflects our interest in land banking. You will later today hear us ask you to approve contracts for purchase of some land adjacent, land and buildings adjacent to Missoula Water. Our intention there is to do something very similar to what we're doing with this city-owned parcel. And that is come up with a development plan that reflects community values, provides housing, and all happens within the context of the existing neighborhood. The other moving part here is that there is a remainder parcel that the city of Missoula will continue to own. And our intention as a function of our public works facilities plan is to put that acreage, which is not cleaned to a residential standard. And as you'll recall, all of this site was subject to cleanup through the Department of Environmental Quality. That cleanup is mostly complete, certainly complete on the residential parcels that are subject to this conversation today. The remainder is cleaned to a commercial standard and allows us to consolidate some of our operations in ways that make nothing but sense for us and are efficient and effective for not only staff, but the public we serve. With that, I am happy to turn the square, I guess is what we turn over in this situation, to Ms. McGee and Mr. Hochstetler to describe their part in this fairly remarkable deal.
Thank you very much, Mayor. Long time no see. Don, thank you for joining us. Do you want to take it from here, or which of the two? You welcome also, Mr. Hochstetler.
Can I get promoted to presenter so I can throw up our slide?
I think as a panelist, you should be able to, but I'm going to defer to Kirsten here.
Yes, he is in as a panelist and he should be able to share his screen.
There we go.
There we go.
Thank you, Kai. Good morning, council members and Mr. Mayor. Always good to see you. I am familiar with many of you, if not most of you, and I believe some of you are familiar with us, but just in case you're not, who are we to be approaching the city to talk about developing this parcel? We have a number of operating entities. Our mandate has always been to essentially do good work in the community. GoodWorks Ventures was founded about 15 years ago to invest in startups in our community to create jobs so we would not have to continue to export our best and brightest out of the state to go find employment opportunities. High Stakes Foundation was also founded around the same time. It grant makes in various areas and puts about $1 million across the state into our nonprofit community. GoodWorks Evergreen is our latest venture. We formed GoodWorks Evergreen after reading in the Missoulian that there was a guy who had died in Stevensville. He owned a manufacturing operation, and with his death, 10 jobs disappeared overnight. And our mandate has always been to see if we see a problem, we try to do something about it. And so we formed GoodWorks Evergreen to buy and transition businesses which would otherwise not transition, so we wouldn't lose the jobs in our rural areas. And to date, we've bought 5 businesses and are looking at a 6th, and we continue to pursue that. Under the auspices of all of this comes Rivara Development. And what I would say about Rivara is that we have not historically been in the business of doing large-scale development, but we have been participating quietly behind the scenes in Missoula to try to fund various entities to acquire and make affordable housing. We recognize that we don't have a vibrant community if we don't have a housing stock which can actually be available to our community to live in and create a healthy environment. And sometime early last fall, there was another family office from a different location entirely in California that happened to read about Luminat in the New York Times, and it put Missoula on their radar. And they had some funds that they wanted to do for an opportunity zone investment. And they actually approached us and said, hey, you know, you guys have this opportunity zone in your community. Is there a project that might be investable? And we have a really quick time frame. We need to do this before the year is over because of the way that the opportunity zone was stacked for them. And so we said, wow, that's a lot of money to be invested in our community to create affordable housing. We'll take a look at it. And we started in conversation with Grant and his crew, and then in conversation with the development office and many of the staff of the city, and said, well, if we have this parcel, what could we do with it that's amazing and imaginative and meets the community needs? And we kind of set off down that path. And as we set off on that path, we found out that there was many things that the community had already identified that were priorities for them. Having daycare in the community, having some services, because the North Side is very underrepresented in terms of restaurants or coffee shops or anything that has services. And so we put together what we thought was a pretty comprehensive package, only to find out that our original family office that approached us had found another project that they had prioritized, and they decided they didn't want to proceed with this investment. It was pretty profoundly disappointing because we felt like we'd come up with such a good project, and we asked the city to give us a little window of opportunity to locate other investors and development partners, and I'll let Kai speak to that.
So reaching out to our network at that point in time, we made some phone calls and we found that there was an Opportunity Zone Fund out of Salt Lake that had aligned, substantially more aligned incentives in the impact that the development on this parcel would have. Looking at this comprehensively, there is the 3 acres that goes into a community land trust that provides for affordable home ownership in perpetuity. Additionally, there's the market rate portion that is mixed use, which really drives that light commercial and brings, the goal is to find the appropriate tenants to come into there and really build a neighborhood center and a community for walkability that makes the north side an attractive place to not only live, work, and spend your time after hours. With that, we also found a development group called Interurban that we're partnering with to bring that commercial mixed use to life. They've done projects in Portland that really brought in a restaurant, a kiosk of different restaurants. And with the proven model of that, we said, hey, this is something new for Missoula. And this is an exciting opportunity to really drive where Missoula goes in the future. And quite frankly, we couldn't do this without the partnership of the city and without the partnership of the investor and the partnership of the developer. On the community land trust side, we're working to identify, the appropriate organizations to work with us to bring that to fruition as well. At this time, there's other questions from council or?
I think no questions at this point. I think there's a couple other folks. Dale, I know you and Aaron and Ellen.
Yes, I think we have so we'll get into the, Ellen and I will get into the details of the presentation. If you're ready for that. And Kai, if you stop sharing your screen, I can, I'll throw our presentation up. While I'm doing this, Aaron is going to talk about how this project, are you seeing that? How this project achieves city goals.
We are.
But first, just as an orientation of the site we're talking about, this is the Scott Street site. This is the current city public works shops. This is other adjacent city property where Public Works has some of its operations and the city cemetery is. This is a little bit more of a closer shot of the Scott Street lot that we refer to as Parcel A. And Parcel A is the subject of the development opportunity we are seeing today. And this is, as you see here, has been cleaned to a residential level, and the westernmost portion of the lot has been cleaned to a commercial level. I am going to skip ahead on these particular slides. These are background related to the history of the site that we went through, but I wanted them to be available for questions. But I'm going to turn it over to Aaron to talk about how this site how this project meets city goals.
Thank you.
Thank you. Erin Pahan, Director of Community Planning, Development, and Innovation. It's not often that Dale serves as our tech person, so I'm gonna enjoy having him run the slides. So the project that you have before you today is a wonderful representation of our adopted housing policies guiding principles, which were created by a diverse citizen steering committee just a little over 2 years ago. These principles challenge the city of Missoula to improve diversity, ensuring we have homes at various prices and in various forms, to innovate, looking beyond our current development models and trends, to collaborate, working with the broader community and with the private sector in more meaningful ways, and to set achievable yet ambitious goals. Through our partnership with Rivera, which you've heard a little bit about and we'll hear more about, this project is just that. It's incredibly ambitious, but very achievable. Flip slides. A Place to Call Home sets clear goals around the preservation and the creation of permanently affordable housing. These include recommendations to explore new development models, as well as using city-owned land for affordable housing development. Our 5-year strategic outcome is to create 100 homes for families earning up to 120% of area median income. This project, as presented, is estimated to construct 70 permanently affordable community land trust homes. Community land trust homes are typically run by a nonprofit corporation that holds the land on behalf of a place-based community or a particular neighborhood, while serving as the long-term steward for affordable housing. Land trusts have legal mechanisms in place to protect affordability, and we have several very successful land trusts in operation in Missoula today. Additionally, for those of you who have questions about the area median income metric, I would encourage you to visit the housing policy page on Engage Missoula, where you can find a clear one-page description of this. So these estimated 70 homes, in addition to 7 homes that are being constructed as part of the Reed condos, which Council placed affordability requirements on earlier this year, meets 77% of our 5-year goal towards the creation of permanently affordable homeownership options. Upon completion, this project will also be the largest permanently affordable land trust development in the state of Montana. And it should also be noted that in addition to providing the permanently affordable homeownership options, the development will bring desperately needed market rate rental homes to our community. So A Place to Call Home also sets clear goals around the establishment of an affordable housing trust fund. This was successfully created earlier this year with a seed allocation of $750,000 in general fund reserves. You'll remember that as part of the establishing ordinance, City Council required the sale of city-owned property, which is not otherwise encumbered, to benefit the trust fund. This development, through the market rate sale of the commercial parcel, Parcel B, will infuse an estimated $1.7 million into the trust fund. These funds have the power to do multiple things. They can be used to provide down payment assistance loans for qualifying home buyers of the community land trust homes, allowing us to reach households that fall well below that 120% of area median income target. They can also be used for down payment assistance in other neighborhoods across the community to support first-time homeownership, or they can be used to fund additional affordable housing development. Specifically, the housing policy recommends funding the trust fund at a level that provides the ability to loan and or grant funds in the $1 to $3 million range annually, either through reoccurring funding sources, capitalization, or a combination of both. So you'll see that this estimated infusion, in addition to that seed funding, places us well at the top of that range. Other broader housing policy goals that are addressed through the project include a diversity in options, bringing more innovative housing types that we're not seeing at scale to the Missoula market, including smaller footprint homes that are inherently more affordable and more sustainable, helping us achieve our energy conservation and climate action goals, as well as the creation of a planning process that will inform future city-driven development. We hope this project is the first of many like projects. Slide. It's also worth noting that this project supports the mission of our department, Community Planning, Development, and Innovation, which is to promote equitable growth and a resilient and sustainable community, and the broader goals of the City of Missoula to create walkable neighborhoods with key services and amenities. In various community and neighborhood planning processes, this area has identified a pressing need for childcare and for neighborhood gathering spaces, both of which this project will address. And with that, I'll turn it back to Dale.
Thank you, Ryan. It's okay for me to proceed. Dale,
It is.
Chief Administrative Officer. So I'm going to talk about the specific elements of the development proposal, and I'll try to hit the major highlights that are included in this PowerPoint. The first thing to note is that this is a private sector-led development. Private sector has always been the has always been the driver for housing construction, and that's not going to change under this. We have a fantastic partner who you met earlier in GoodWorks Ventures, in business as Rivara Development, and they will act as the master developer for the entirety of the 9-acre parcel that I'll call Parcel A. And the first aspect of this is the planning process. So again, private sector driven, Rivara will engage a consultant and that will provide a conceptual design for the site, the entire 9-acre parcel. It also will provide a conceptual design for adjacent city-owned sites. We are working towards finishing our public works master plan, and we can use this process to help do some conceptual design there, so we can ensure that that any development the city does related to public works has a good transitions to this site. This planning process will identify and propose the infrastructure improvements necessary not only for this site, but as well as other recent developments. So there are other developments in the area that are causing infrastructure impacts, and but Rivara has agreed to include those types of improvements that are outside the site, and that will be a city responsibility to implement, but we will be able to identify those improvements in this process. And it will be public. We'll engage key stakeholders in the neighborhood through this public process, with both Rivara, the city, and MRA being partners in that. Part of the deal is the market rate parcel. And this is approximately 6 acres that we will sell to Rivara at $7.30 a square foot. That dollar amount represents the amount we paid for the site back in August. And this is for that market rate aspect that you heard about of housing, neighborhood commercial use, and a purpose-built daycare facility. And also GoodWorks will act as the master developer for a 3-acre parcel that the city would convey to a community land trust, and this is the portion of the site that would provide for permanently affordable home ownership opportunities. And then Rivara finally is responsible for providing the private capital and resources necessary to develop the property. City responsibilities include, the sale and conveyance of the lands. We'll be partners in leading the conceptual design and public process. Investments in the planning process and future infrastructure improvements through our typical MRA processes, and place the proceeds of the sale of the land into the Affordable Housing Trust. A little more detail on each of those elements. So the 6-acre parcel would provide for the market rate development. It's really all about housing, and we talked about the innovative housing types that we intend to try to use in Missoula. And what that is what we hope to be able to accomplish there is to maximize density while retaining neighborhood character. Neighborhood commercial opportunities, food and beverage businesses, tap rooms, the daycare facility, potential for an employment center opportunity. Our Public Works Master Plan is identifying the potential to consolidate public works at this site, and we could and City Public Works administration could be in a commercial building that starts establishing an employment center in that neighborhood. And then the estimated proceeds from the sale is between 1.6 and 1.9 million. Because this whole 18-acre parcel hasn't been split yet, the conceptual design process will actually determine how we want to split that, and we will use right-of-way dedication in order to split those lots, and then the dedication to create those conveyable parcels wouldn't be part of the sale proceeds. On the community land trust parcel, it's a 3-acre parcel that would be designated and restricted for permanently affordable home ownership opportunities. So as Aaron mentioned, target buyers with an income of 120% or below of AMI. The CL2 model will provide the access and create a limited equity model that will keep these units permanently affordable. There'll be other additional resources to help support affordability available from the Affordable Housing Trust Fund. And we anticipate that this will bring up about 70 home ownership units, making it the largest home ownership development in Montana history. And then finally, the conceptual design and public process, and some of the other elements of the proposal. So the letter of intent that we're asking council to consider today establishes a minimum density standard of 24 units per acre. We want to make sure that we are able to maximize density, but we don't want it, but we'll also make sure that it fits in well with the neighborhood. The existing zoning provides for a maximum density of 43 units per acre. Talked about the innovative housing types, missing middle targets of different types of units that are all planned together. Mentioned the conceptual design for adjacent city properties. And then we also have the good opportunities, mentioned the commercial building, but we also have the opportunities for shared parking. If we can create a parking partnership between the residential areas and the commercial areas, that's just less land that's needed to park cars. And then, of course, we will provide the infrastructure plan to address the needs for this particular development and also other developments that are occurring in the neighborhood. I'm going to turn it over to Ellen here. She's going to talk about the process for selecting Good Works Ventures as our partner here, and that's a little bit unique when it happens inside an urban renewal district.
Thanks, Dale.
Thanks, Dale. Excuse me, Ellen Buchanan, Director of the Missoula Redevelopment Agency. As the mayor mentioned, MRA partnered with Missoula Economic Partnership, MEP, to allow them to do work, to fund their doing work to try to attract opportunity zone investments in our one opportunity zone in Missoula. And as a result of that work and a whole lot of digging and interacting and networking that they were able to do with potential developers and looking at other communities and what's gone on with opportunity zone investments in other areas, they were able to bring us this partner in the form of Good Works Ventures to look at the Scott Street piece. One of the incentives, obviously, for being aggressive about the purchase of that piece of property, in addition to its key location geographically, was the fact that it's right in the middle of an opportunity zone and an urban renewal district, which is a pretty impactful combination financially to the right investor. So there was an urgency about moving forward because there's a clock ticking on the being able to maximize opportunity zone investments. As Dawn pointed out, the original group that Good Works was working with had some really onerous timeline constraints on the opportunity zone piece of it that and then other factors came into play and they moved away from this particular project. But we have a different investor who we think fits our mission as a city and the visions that we have created in a very, very positive way. So there's been an urgency to move forward with this from the get-go because of the tools that are available to maximize the way we redevelop this and meet those timelines that are imposed on those tools. Fortunately, there's a provision in state law under the urban renewal section that allows a municipality to dispose of real property in urban renewal areas to private persons under reasonable procedures as the governing body shall prescribe. So what we did was sat down and looked at whether or not there is a rationale to invoke that section of the law and find that reasonable procedures do exist for the conveyance of this property to Good Works Ventures. Primarily, we looked at what are the adopted plans and policies for the city. There are numerous ones that this project and this conveyance addresses: the growth policy, the urban renewal plan for that district, the North Reserve Scott Street master plan, and our housing policy that Aaron talked about a few minutes ago, among others. But those are the primary ones that this proposal really is in tremendous alignment with. So what you have as part of this packet is a 3 or 4 page analysis of this project, this conveyance, and how we believe it establishes a reasonable procedure for conveying the property to Good Works to move forward with this development. And all of this, all of this sprang from that partnership between Missoula Economic Partnership with funding from TIF funds in that area and the Urban Renewal District 2, which are in the Opportunity Zone to attract just this kind of development. So we see this as a huge win-win for the city and for folks who would love to live here and not elsewhere as they work here. So if we could go to the next slide, I'll talk very briefly about kind of next steps and moving forward. If City Council chooses to find that the reasonable procedures test has been met, and we think it definitely has, and you approve this resolution, the next step will be engagement of a design firm by Good Works Ventures, funded by MRA, to participate in a public process to create a conceptual design for this site. One of the things that we see as a real opportunity here, and we see the same opportunity with the MRL property that we purchased on Johnson and North Avenue, is the ability to create a new model for how we provide housing, and how we provide some degree of density. And I'm not supposed to use that word anymore without having to pay $1, but I'll spend my dollar right now. But how we maximize these sites, and we create a new model for our development community to demonstrate that you can mix housing types, you can mix income groups, you can create many neighborhoods or components of neighborhoods and not follow the same development patterns that we've historically followed since probably the 40s and 50s. Prior to that, we did these mixed designs, but we've kind of lost our way in this country, and we'd like to use this site and some other ones that the city has been able to acquire to demonstrate how we can recreate that kind of mix in our neighborhoods and enhance the neighborhoods. So the plan as it exists today is that if the city council sees their way clear to approve this recommendation, we hope to take a proposal to the MRA board on the 18th of this month for funding to engage Opticos to create conceptual design for the 9+ acres, in addition to looking at kind of the offsite impacts and how we mitigate some of those impacts. We know it will be a very public process. We have a very engaged neighborhood to the east of Scott Street that is seeing a number of new housing units being built right on their edge, with Bellagio, with the development that Dave Edgell did at Scott Street Village, and now with this development on the property that the city acquired. The plan right now is that board would consider it later this month. Design team would contract with Good Works with a defined scope of services probably in early March. We begin a public process, which probably lasts 2 to 3 months. And then summer of this year, we're able to create the development agreement and the purchase agreements that are necessary to close on conveyance of the property, which I believe the agreements have 180 days for that to happen, which would be summer of 21. And that will create a partnership among the developers, the city, MRA, and MEP to maximize what we do on this site, and also the mitigation of offsite impacts and the consideration of concerns of the North Side neighborhood. I've got to say, I've got a fair amount of experience with a lot of cities and a lot of public processes, and I think Dale said it best in a meeting yesterday. For this project, we bought this property in August. We're looking at a conveyance in less than a year from time of purchase and commitment for a conveyance, and way less than a year. So we've kind of moved at lightning speed on this to try to fill a need that is dire in our community right now and getting worse daily. So with that, I will step aside and I think probably Dale or the mayor are going to summarize, and we'll kick it to the council for questions.
Thanks, Alan.
So,
Go ahead, Dale.
well, this is the recommendation to council to approve the resolution that does these three things. Authorizes the sale to Rivara of the 6-acre parcel. Authorizes the conveyance of approximately 3 acres of parcel A to a community land trust. And the determination that the procedures used to establish a relationship with Rivara are considered reasonable.
Thanks, Dale. Any other materials? I'm conscious of our time.
That's the end of the formal presentation. We are available for questions.
Great. Thank you very much. I will say in 7+ years on council, I'm not sure we covered more material in a 35-minute time frame than today. I'm going to urge my colleagues, we are going to take action on this today in committee. Please be thrifty with your questions and comments. And Heidi, we'll start with you.
I would like to go ahead and get those motions on the floor and then speak to them briefly. I don't have any questions though.
So both of those are in order, and go ahead.
All right, so I am coming to you from my purple room, which is exactly 2 blocks away from the site that we're talking about right now. And I am just thrilled and excited to see what's happened in this space. My first introduction to any sort of public process was when the DEQ unveiled their plan for the cleanup, which wasn't adequate and would have never allowed this to happen. I think it's really exciting. It's a huge, I guess, accomplishment that speaks to both our extensive internal planning as well as our public processes that we have in our community. I think that all of the neighborhood plans and the plans for URDs and our housing policy, all of these create a foundation that allows us to move quickly when the need arises. And I just want to thank everyone who has worked so hard to bring the right partners in the room and make this possible. And I just want to highlight 2 things I think that are hugely significant for our neighborhood, which are the creation of a space for a daycare facility. We lack access to childcare in our neighborhood, and that is a problem that hasn't gotten better in the time that I've had kids, and I don't think it's going to necessarily get better without targeted public investment, and I think this is that. And I also just think it's super exciting how many boxes this checks off in line with our housing policy and our housing goals. It provides significant funding for our Housing Trust Fund, but it also more than doubles the amount of permanently affordable homeownership homes that we have in our community. And that is a huge accomplishment. And I look forward, excuse me, to the public processes that will still come. Like, I think that is also exciting, just that there is still a lot of opportunity for the neighbors to weigh in what is going to happen here. So thank you so much for working really hard to bring this together.
Thanks, Heidi. So just process-wise, we do have the 2 motions on the floor. And if there are members of the public that wish to provide public comment, we've got a number of council comments and questions to go through, but please go ahead and raise your hand if you're interested and queue up, and I will make time for that. Ms. Cheryl, you're next.
Yeah, thanks. And I will be thrifty with my comments. I love this project. It is obviously a really complex project, and I'm thankful to have all of these minds at the table, as well as their tenacity and creativity in making something good happen for our community. So I just want to say that I think about all my constituents that will say, what are you doing about affordable housing? And I want to give them this presentation. I mean, this is going to be the answer to that, at least a piece of it. So just want to first thank everyone at the table for a very, as I think the mayor said, almost 20 years of kind of talking about this and then it coming to pass pretty quickly after we purchased the property. I just wanted to highlight, Aaron had put a number up there of this project fulfilling 77% of what goal was that? Would you just highlight that for us, Aaron? And I'll save my other questions for later due to time.
Yeah, so when we passed housing policy, we set some 5-year strategic goals or outcomes. And one of those was to create 100 units of homeownership, permanently affordable homeownership options for families earning up to 120% of area median income. So this project, in addition to the permanently affordable condos at the Reed, gets us 77% towards that goal.
Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Anderson.
Thank you so much. I will, in an interest of time, save my praises for when we hear this on Monday night, but I actually have a couple of questions. And I think Ms. Buchanan might be the one to direct this towards, because she highlighted the fact that this neighborhood is seeing a fair amount of change. And so I would just like it if either her or somebody can talk a little bit more about the public process that will be engaged to sort of solicit feedback and ideas from the neighborhood. I know that there are really good neighborhood plans in place, but there has been so much change and so much development in this neighborhood that I really think it's important. It's one of the things that we talked a lot about when we purchased this project, this parcel in August of, with us owning it, we can sort of demand this community engagement and feedback. And so I'd like to kind of highlight that a little bit more for folks so they reassure that that is definitely a priority of this.
Thanks. Ms. Buchanan, do you want to field or Dale, do you want to field the onion on that a little bit?
Sure. One thing I'll say is, so, in addition to the Scott Street URD plan, there's also the Scott Street master plan, and that does contemplate a lot of the improvements necessary to accommodate growth in this area. But what this process is going to do is not only, look at those and refine those elements, but it's going to be, the direct result is going to be transportation, open space, parks. Those specific projects are identified will be referred to the city's capital improvement program for inclusion in future budgets.
Thanks. I know there's more to talk about there, but I'm going to work us through our folks here. Ms. Harp.
Thanks, Brian. Just want to point out that the failure that we had at the end of the last year to not get that first investor come through has led to this particular partnership success, and I'm really looking forward to seeing what develops. So to Don and Kaya in particular, can you talk about how with the 9 acres you came to that that thought process in terms of 6 acres for market rate and 3 acres for the CLT, and how you came to that decision?
Sure, I'm happy to take a stab at that. We were from the outset just looking at how do we get the most amount of affordable housing as possible, and recognizing the flexibility that Opportunity Zone investment dollars provide. Usually these projects are funded by a combination of a capital stack of federal dollars and, very, very complex requirements of income requirements of how high you have to be, how low you have to be. And it often creates a situation where you're trying to thread the eye of a needle. So there may be somebody who qualifies for the housing, but as their income moves up, they would then be thrown out of their apartment because they no longer qualify for the housing. So we really worked together with the city to try to figure out, is there a really good model that we could use that would provide housing and permanently affordable housing and have a little bit more of an expansive definition than just the usual federal funding requirements. And so I don't actually recall, Heidi, at this point, like how we we came up with a 3 versus the 6 versus the whatever, but I think we ran a robust set of financials to try to figure out what will it take to get to the purchase price that the city needs to be able to do the multifamily development that's going to provide the investor the return profile that they need to have for the investment, that then is going to allow the entire development of the parcel to satisfy all of the needs of the community, including the daycare and various other aspects of really good design work that we want to see happen on this parcel. So it was just sort of through working through those mechanisms of trying to put restrictions on rental housing, which we realized ultimately we have a lot of rental housing with those restrictions on. And we decided to take that off of the rental housing and really focus on the homeownership part.
Great, thank you. And just one quick follow-up, if I might.
Okay.
One of the other things when we talk about affordable housing, there's a stigma oftentimes associated with that type from market rate. How do you envision this project in the broad brush, if you will, of how those are actually integrated?
Sure. I mean, our idea is not to have 3 acres of affordable housing here and then other housing here. Is really to develop an entire repertoire of housing stock. So within the multifamily housing, there'll be units that are larger, there'll be units that are smaller. Within the community land trust, there'll be units that are smaller and larger as well. And we're really trying to work with Opticos not to create, here's the 3 acres of one thing and here's the 6 acres of something else, and that we're really looking at creating a master plan that has the housing woven through the community so that there is no distinguishing which is affordable, which is not affordable. It's just going to be a mixed neighborhood development with, I think, having a very wide range of people who will live there. And I think that that's what's going to create the vibrancy for the community, Heather.
Thank you, appreciate that.
Thanks, Don. Mr. Hess.
Thanks. And Don, I think you probably answered my question just now, but I was going to specifically ask if the 3 acres would be contiguous or if it would be spread throughout. But it sounds like it will be spread throughout, or at least kind of mixed in some way.
That's the general idea of what we would like to see. We haven't started the design process. So obviously, like as we work with the architects, but the architects we're engaging, the Opticos people, they're very known for developing what I would call a fluid neighborhood, as opposed to like little ticky-tack boxes. So the idea is really to have it to be the entire development to flow and to be easy and to be accessible to the neighborhood, and ultimately to create a destination within the north side that people want to come to.
That's great.
Well, I will point out that the main constraint there is going to be right away, and so we will only have 2 unique parcels at the end of the day based on what's been proposed, and so how the right of way creates those, and it'll all be basically probably through a TED process or something for the community land trust portion.
Okay, great. Question for Aaron. Can you talk a little bit about the ongoing impact of this magnitude of reinvestment into the Affordable Housing Trust Fund?
Absolutely. So the Affordable Housing Trust Fund was created with the seed seed contribution from general fund reserves of $750,000. And then of course the ongoing annual contribution of a minimum of $100,000. I think this infusion does a lot of things. It helps us really maximize the potential of this project with the community land trust homes to provide home ownership opportunities for folks really earning all the way from 80% of area median income, which tends to be kind of the income level where folks need a boost, but can maintain that mortgage payment into the home buyer market, all the way up to that workforce level, which we sometimes talk about 120% of area median income. And just to point out, when we talk about 120% of area median income, we're talking about typically 2 individuals who make around $16 or $17 each. And so those are for folks in the retail sector, folks working in the hospitality industry. That we're not talking about high income earners in our community. So those funds, I think, allow us to maximize the impact of this particular project, but also provide us the ability to think about how we want to structure the remaining funds. Those can be used as a stepping stone into building that corpus, which we have identified of around $10 million, which would allow us to loan and grant between $1 and $3 million a year and have that deep revolving loan fund. So we have a sustainable source within the trust. Or this could serve as several years of the ability to loan or grant $1 to $3 million a year while we continue to build that corpus. And so I think there are some decisions we need to make around that in conjunction with the Citizen Oversight Committee, which is being created and established as I speak. And to continue to look at other sources that we know will be coming in. This is the first of many projects in our land banking strategy. And so we anticipate there'll be more infusions like this as a result of that.
Yeah, that's great. And I'll save my substantive comments for Monday. I'll just say briefly that this is one of the most impactful and exciting projects that's come before council in my 7 years on council. It's really a big deal. Thanks.
Thank you. Ms. Merritt.
I just want to voice my complete and enthusiastic support for this project and my deep gratitude for Good Works Ventures and the other investors and all of the hard work that staff and the Missoula Economic Partnership have put into this. It, as Jordan just said, this is monumental. So thank you all very much.
Thanks. Ms. Vasika.
Thanks. I'm not completely sold on this idea yet. I did talk with Heather about this at length. I would like to, because of that, and we're out of time, I'm going to vote no on this today, but I want to put it on a committee report so we can discuss it at length since we're out of time. So it's a really great idea. I'm just not fully convinced yet. So that's how I'm going to vote today.
Understood. Thanks. I'd like to go to Grant Keir from MEP, and then I'm going to go to public comment. Grant, go ahead.
Thank you for the chance to make a contribution to through public comment. On behalf of MEP, I just wanted to encourage support of adoption of this resolution. I appreciate we're under a time constraint here, but I will say that many of you participated in a workshop in the spring of 2019, long ago in the days when we gathered in large groups indoors. When we brought the Economic Innovation Group to Missoula to talk about what opportunity zones meant and how they could be best utilized. We went through almost 2 years of a process of going to conference, touring communities, working with our partners at the MRA and at the city. And when we started that process, this was our vision of what we could pull together and what was possible. And this was the place that we thought, based on talking to impact investors who are working at a national scale, we really felt like Scott Street was the place we had the best likelihood to succeed. It's been a bit of an effort to get here. People have worked so hard, and I think under tremendous stress and pressure to meet some time constraints. And we're really thrilled at the partnerships, proud to be a part of this in a small way, and just really fired up to see what the team at Good Works and the city can do together to move this project forward down the road. So thank you very much for a chance to support this.
Thanks, Grant. In the public, I have Madison with her hand up. Let me get you on here. Okay, you should be able to unmute yourself. There you are.
Yes, thank you guys. I just have 2 questions. I'm just curious what the exact address of these acres are. And my second question is just overall, is there a ballpark estimate of price on this?
Dale, do you want to field those?
I can. There is actually no street address for this parcel. So, I can just generally describe it as the parcel that is north of the city's public works facility and White Pine Park, and just south of Scott Street Village, the new development on Scott Street. Related to cost, so, the city on the sale of the parcel will receive between $1.6 and $1.9 million that will go into the Affordable Housing Trust Fund. There will be MRA will have a role in infrastructure development and likely will invest in infrastructure related to the site, but there are no general fund dollars or other city dollars. I mean, we have our utilities will be operating at the site. So it's really a private sector led development that would be similar to any other project in the urban rural district, except that we are at the table from the beginning here.
Thank you.
Thanks. Not seeing other public comment, and given the time, I have a lot to say about this. It's great that as a facilitator, I don't have any time. I want to simply, at this point, say thank you. This bookends, in a way, my council tenure in ways I'll elaborate on Monday night. But in the interest of time, I'd like, we have a pair of motions that are in order, and I'd like to take a roll call vote.
Brian, would you like me to take the vote on both of them together?
Yes, please.
Just a moment. Okay, Anderson.
Yes.
Becerra.
Yes.
Contos.
Yes.
Harp.
Yes.
Hess.
Yes.
Jones.
Yes.
Merritt.
Yes.
Cheryl.
Yes.
Vasika.
No.
Von Lossberg.
Yes.
And West.
Yes.
We have 10 yeses, 1 no, and 1 absent.
And we'll go ahead and place that on committee reports. I think regardless of the vote, this is a great project to put on committee reports for sort of additional details and highlights. So look forward to that on Monday. Thank you to everyone for the materials and all the information on this particular item. I want to just quickly take care of business on our held items and say that without objection, since they're all under my name, we can keep the only one we need to keep is the water utility litigation update, as that is an ongoing matter. The other items we are dealing with through referrals as necessary. So barring objection, 3 of those can go away, and we'll keep the water utility litigation update one. Seeing no objections to that, thank you everyone very much. Looking forward to Monday, and we will be adjourned.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.